The next one we see is the man Rayleigh. He is a carpenter from Adola. Rayleigh replied that he didn't know anything about where they were. The third guy's name is Grisha. He has a stall in Halcyon. He differed from the first two characters in that he was more shy. He didn't know how he got here either. The next character we meet is a young girl, Jenna. She lived in the woods. She, like the others, did not understand how they got here. And the last character we meet is a young guy, Islat Khan. He is a farmer. Unfortunately, he could not give any information about their location either. The guys started discussing among themselves what was going on here and where they were. Darkness reigned around because of the ruins. Someone suggested that it was just a dream, since the harvest season has now begun. One of them suggested that they might have been teleported for experiments. Point, to which the man with the scar angrily replied, "Don't talk nonsense." Raleigh, after getting acquainted, concluded that they were all residents of Tawny. He suggested that the others further compare the facts in order to understand something. When suddenly, out of nowhere, a little girl with wings appeared. She enthusiastically asked what they were doing. She was wearing a black dress that complemented her magical image. She went on to say that the master had opened the rift of space and time. She warned them to prepare for battle. As it turned out, this is a little fairy who is much smaller than the characters themselves, the consequence of which they stared at her in bewilderment. One of them, being in shock, asked who she was, to which she replied that they could call her Izel. She is the guardian fairy of this place. Despite her small stature, she was a threat, so she warned them that it was better for them not to argue with her if they didn't want to get hurt. The scarred man, trying to find out where they were, asked her who brought them here, but Isel didn't give a clear answer. She said it was none of their business. The man was accumulating anger. He did not understand how it was possible to kidnap and not explain anything. He was already preparing to speak to her in a bad way, taking out his sword. Isel saw all this and just sighed, telling him to stop doing stupid things. The man, finally angry, pulled out his sword with the words that she was too brazen to such a miljusk. He clearly intended to harm her. Isel was not afraid and grinned maliciously, not understanding whether this was a manifestation of courage or stupidity. The man, being furious, attacked her with a ball, wanting to teach her manners. However, he did not have time to reach her when he suddenly felt a strong pain in the throat area. Having stopped in a stupor, he held his throat and felt blood. Malmond has returned to the arms of the Lord. His spirit will be remembered until the end of time, a certain system reported. The man's body fell to the ground. His head was severed from the body and bounced to the other side. Everything was covered in blood. The cause of death is suicide due to overexcitation. The system continued. Everyone was shocked by what they saw and started screaming in fear. Isel said she warned about it. She insisted that this would not have happened if she had been listened to. She also warned them that if anyone raised a hand against her, they would end up the same way. Her expression inspired terror and fear. She explained that it was just self-defense. Everyone was shocked and could not believe that the head had been cut off. They asked why she did it and wanted to know what she wanted from them, to which she easily replied that all you need to do is fight well, win and obey. She added that it was so easy. Izel's attention was attracted by the voice of the system, which reported that the group had been formed. The heroes had to be moved to free slots. The system compiled a list that included Riley, Ranto, Marilyn, Kelkert, and Jackson. They were added to the group 1. The fairy, seeing this, realized that the master had decided to start. She ordered everyone to get ready. Flying high, she shouted, "Open up the rift." And a second later, some magical gates began to open. She called all the members of the first group while they were standing in a state of shock. She was pointing with a smile on her face at the gate that had just opened. She ordered them to go there if they didn't want to repeat the fate of that mercenary. A guy named Islat Khan asked Izel to take her time, which annoyed her since it was not the first time she had seen him. She asked him what he needed this time. The guy asked her if she wanted to climb to the top of the tower. He offered to ask the master to choose a weapon for them. He argued that they are 1 star and do not even have a basic weapon. He asked her if she wanted to send them to certain death. A girl named Jen didn't understand what he was talking about. She didn't know what a tower was or why Isel knew it. Islat Khan continued to speak. He mentioned that a valuable 2-star warrior, Malmont Karl, had just died. He asked to give them at least something. The system showed the characteristics of the deceased man. Malmont Karl, 2 stars. Level 1, experience, 0 divided by 10. Class, beginner. Power, 14. Intelligence, 10. Health, 12. Dexterity, 12. Skills, fundamentals of fencing, level 1. The fairy, having looked at the body of the deceased and his characteristics, agreed with Islam Khan. Izel turned to the master to get equipment for the heroes. She asked if he wanted to give them weapons to increase their chances of winning. She typed all this appeal through a pop-up keyboard in the form of a hologram. The system has already notified that heroes without equipped weapons start fighting with an old wooden sword. If you put weapons in the arsenal of heroes, they equip it. The master could choose a weapon for them. The system continued that the starting equipment for 10 heroes will cost 50,000 gold. We are given information that the master of Ennet has acquired an iron sword, a weak bow, and a Morgenstern. The man who was in the first group recalled that this guy's name was Khan. He asked him if Han knew anything about this place, to which the guy replied that he didn't know much since he hadn't been here for a long time. The girl had suspicions about this guy after his words that he had not been here for a long time. But the girl did not have time to collect her thoughts. When Khan said that he knew for sure that they needed to prepare well, he advised them to go to the arsenal and buy weapons. He pointed his finger at the location of the arsenal and also said that everything would start soon. Everyone asked him with perplexity and indignation, "What other beginning?" To which he only briefly replied, "The battle." But this only disturbed people even more. They kept asking about what other battle he had in mind. Everyone was in a panic. Someone said that he did not know how to fight, and someone offered to take a weapon first and then everything else. And a moment later, they had already sorted out all the weapons among themselves. A group of 5 people headed towards the gate. The man who was walking in front noticed that the corpse had disappeared somewhere. When he asked the fairy about it, she just waved them off and directed them to move forward. They came to the gate, and the man stuck his fingers in there. But they were immediately pulled away from there. Afraid to go any further, Isel's patience was running out. She hurried them on while the others refused to enter. Meanwhile, Jenna and Han were choosing their weapons. The red-haired girl chose arrows and a bow for herself. She looked with surprise at the Khan, who was taking up a shield. She was thinking that she should team up with him. Jenna asked directly if he knew what was behind that gate, and continued to ask a stream of questions. Why do they need weapons? Where are they located? What kind of fairy is this? What is it? She asked, to which Khan replied that she was asking too many questions. He only briefly explained that they go to the arena to kill enemies, and the rest does not depend on them. When the system suddenly reported that Merlin has returned to the arms of the Lord, his fighting spirit will be remembered until the end of time, Khan got angry, and Jenna didn't understand what was going on. Suddenly, the system continued to announce that all the participants had returned to the arms of the Lord. All 4 participants were dead. Khan said he didn't expect anything else from 1 star, and Jenna still didn't understand what was going on. Suddenly, the system announced the death of the last participant, and thus Group 1 was destroyed. They lost. He was even a little surprised that it happened so quickly. Isel was very angry and called them useless cretins. She couldn't believe they had died on the first floor. Since the first group lost, the system created a new group. This time the band was formed from Khan, Jenna, Dajjal, Grisha and Carl. A new group of 1-star heroes was created. The fairy screamed ominously, urging the remaining ones to move forward. Han said it was their turn, and Jenna was wondering why no one had come back. One elderly participant of the game approached the fairy, saying that he had arthritis. He claimed that he could not even walk and asked to feel sorry for the old man. Jenna, not believing him, asked again about arthritis since before that he walked normally. The old man replied that he had just started to get sick. The fairy was so angry that she was shaking with anger. She called them idiots. Jenna noticed that Han moved forward and pulled the old man with her. She argued that it was necessary to unite in order to survive. The old man was indignant, shouting that she did not understand because he had arthritis. The fairy had the last drop of patience, and she shouted at them, demanding that they prepare for battle. One of the participants did not understand who to fight. Grisha said that he had never held a spear in his hands before. The Khan walked in front, holding a sword and shield in his hands. Isel finally told them that they would definitely cope. The last thing that was heard before they entered the gate was the old man's screams that his stomach was spinning. As soon as they entered, they saw glowing arches. They immediately began to wonder what kind of place this was. Someone even suggested that it was some kind of temple. Various inscriptions were written on the walls, but the most basic inscription that shone brightly was in front of them. As it turned out, this is the main dungeon. Their task was to climb to the top and save the world. Just below the inscription, it was indicated how many floors had already been passed. At the moment, 0 floors have been passed. The system reported that the gate was opening. Khan assured the other participants that there is no need to panic and we need to move forward. And literally a second later there was a flash. All the heroes ended up on some kind of field. They started looking around to see where they were. The system has shown that this is their first task. Conquest. Goal: destroy the enemies. And many level 3 goblins appeared in front of them. They were small in stature, but they were quite intimidating. They had a huge knife with a wooden shield, and their red eyes and sharp fangs only enhanced the image of the monster. Islat Khan said it was a battlefield. He reminded them that if they didn't fight, they would die. So he offered to pull himself together. But before Khan could finish, all 3 participants had already fled, throwing their weapons. Jenna was the only one left. Khan, seeing this picture, cursed, and Jenna screamed and asked the old man where his arthritis had gone. The system showed that Jenna was experiencing fear. All characteristics are lowered by 30%. The old man, still running away, replied that he felt better, just like Jenna. The others had their stats lowered by 30% due to fear. 3 men who were running away suddenly crashed into an invisible wall. They started to get indignant, asking why they couldn't get out. Someone complained of pain, and someone asked to let him out, as he needed to go to the toilet. The old man began pitifully knocking on the wall, desperately asking to let him out. Khan, turning to them, called them cowards. His attention was attracted by Jenna, who asked him if they could get out if they killed the goblin. Khan asked Jenna if she could shoot, to which she replied that her father was a hunter. The guy offered her to shoot them while he was in close combat. Jenna agreed. They realized that while those three were pitifully beating against the wall, they would have to fight together. The goblins moved towards them. The guy has never held a sword in his life, as well as a shield. His name is Islat Khan, and his real name is So Jin. He got into a terrible game where everything depends on luck. An active struggle has begun against many goblins and two heroes. Choose Main, a mobile game from the publisher Mobius. The goal of the game is to get to the 100 floors of the tower. In this game, items are created to improve and strengthen the heroes, as well as tactics are being worked out to pass each floor. Until yesterday, the main character was a simple man. He downloaded this game to his smartphone. When he opened the game, an ad appeared in the game. As it turned out, thanks to the help of masters around the world, the milestone of 1 million downloads was reached. A special event was held in honor of this. Information about the event was given just below. 1. The possibility of getting 1,000 crystals for free. 2. For entering the game, you can get 1 high-ranked hero card. 3. And most importantly, the opening of the paranormal dungeon of Advent. Khan, seeing this announcement, thought that finally there was a normal event in this garbage game. The maximum rank of heroes is 7 stars. The main character had a hell of a bad luck. He opened 1,000 cards, but did not receive the hero of 7 stars, although everyone already has them. The guy thought that in a paranormal dungeon with a small chance of falling out of the Book of Revolution, being able to create a hero of 7 stars is a good chance to try. This game differs from its kind by rather harsh rules. All heroes have only 1 life. Islat Khan thought that regardless of the number of stars, it would be impossible to return them. He decided it was better to send unimportant characters to investigate. The system showed that the dungeon is open, but suddenly the game starts ticking red with words of warning. The system showed that his characters feel fear. Then a list of his 5-star characters appeared, who, out of fear, lowered all the characteristics by 30%. The correct version of the text with corrected grammatical errors. The guy didn't understand what they were afraid of. Then he saw how Derder's character wanted to retreat. He was upset because of such a quick loss. He was reassured by the fact that he would at least look at the boss's movement patterns. The system showed that Derder was in a panic. The main character was surprised by the dark monster that appeared. He was level 999. In the game, it was seen how he killed the last character. Han couldn't believe that level 999 monsters existed. He considered it a bug. The game showed that he lost. The guy reduced everything to a system error. The system showed him the players who had returned to the arms of the Lord. He was a little upset that they died before he even saw anything. I considered it a futile attempt. Suddenly, this monster stared with its red eyes at the main character. It looked very creepy. He said he had found it. The guy's face was frozen with universal horror. He did not understand what had happened, when suddenly everything was plunged into darkness. He couldn't see anything, and that scared him. The system reported that an account was being created. The young man did not understand what kind of account. The game gave him to choose a name from 2 to 6 characters. Spaces and special characters were forbidden, but the guy was not up to it. He wondered how he got here. The system reported that the name in it is free and offered to take this name. The guy thought that this name was an abbreviation of anything. And then the system made a choice that he would take this name. The main character was outraged because he didn't press anything. He didn't understand what was going on. The game welcomed Enit with the arrival in the world of Choose Me. The system offered to undergo training, at the end of which you can receive a reward. Enit answered satisfactorily. Islat Khan was in the center of the city, which was burning. The game has begun. A guy named Islat Khan lived in an unremarkable provincial town. The city of Tanya is a land where people live together with other races. An unknown enemy has attacked these peaceful lands. To save the world, the master had to climb to the top of the tower. A lot of heroes will help him. The main character looked around in fright. The system gave information about the task, to destroy the goblins who invaded the city. Han didn't understand which goblins the game was talking about, even though one of them was standing in front of him. He just couldn't believe it. It all seemed unreal to him. But he didn't have time to figure out what was going on, as the goblin launched an attack. He jumped on the main character with a knife. But Khan managed to defend himself thanks to the sword he had. The system reported that the battle was happening automatically, and added, watch the high-class battles of the combat AI. Han was able to gather his strength and push the goblin away, dealing a fatal blow when he fell. The guy couldn't accept that he had personally killed another creature. The game reported that the task was completed. Khan raised the level and received a reward, which was in the mail. Now the main character was in a different location, safer and calmer. Now that he was safe, he could concentrate on his thoughts. Khan began to understand what was inside the game. When he looked around, examining the area, he realized that this place was familiar to him. It was a location from the game Choose Me. While he was confused, the system turned to him, Master, would you like to get an allied hero before the next task? He had to click Summon in the main menu. The first draft was free. Khan received 500 crystals for a high-ranking summoning. And suddenly the light flashed. A super rare hero appeared in front of him. As it turned out, the master of Enin called the 4-star hero Shay. Khan was surprised by her call. He thought the same thing had happened to him. The guy assumed that another player had called him. While he was thinking about it, the hero who was called opened his eyes and spoke. She asked the main character who he was. We are given a characterization of the character. Her name is Shay Laichtri. She has 4 stars. Level 1, experience 0 divided by 10. Class, Knight. Strength, 19. Intelligence, 10. Health, 18. Dexterity, 22. Skills, Combat Analysis Level 1. Advanced Fencing Level 1. Knight Determination Level 1. The guy introduced himself to her as Han So Jin. In response, she also gave her name and added that Han Jin is an unusual name. Khan asked me to call him by his first name correctly. The game moved the heroes to free slots to create a new group. Han and Shay formed a band. After that, they were sent to the dungeon. We are moving to the battlefield. Shay easily chopped off the heads of goblins. She noticed that he was a beginner since Han was weak. He justified himself by being here for the first time. Unlike him, who had never held a sword in his hands before, Shay easily dealt with goblins. The task was completed. She raised the level. The most valuable hero is Shay. There was a huge difference between their characters. She had 3 more stars, which the main character understood. But after that, he had a problem. After some time, the system reports that the heroes fought well. They started the last part of the training. There are huge gates in front of them. Synthesis is a way to strengthen heroes. The synthesis gate has opened. Khan was very scared. You could say he's already buried himself. When suddenly a voice called him. It was a fairy who was viciously shouting at him to get inside faster. She mentioned that the master is waiting. Khan looked at her with a dull look and was silent. He called her by her first name Izel. The fairy was surprised that he knew her name and asked how he knew her and who he was. He continued to look at her indifferently and thought to himself that he was a gambler. However, he told her that his name was Han So Jin. The fairy opened a book with characters and tried to find him there. When Isel didn't find him there, she couldn't believe it. She asked if his name was Han Islat. However, she didn't need this information as she noticed that even his icon was different. She exclaimed that he did not look at all like Han Islat from Tonia. The main character got angry and replied that he was Han So Jin from Seoul. He demanded to return him home properly. The fairy asked him if he was from Earth. Khan ironically replied that he was not from Mars. Isel stood in silence for a second, apparently gathering her thoughts. Then she cursed loudly, not believing how it was even possible. Complains that he's going to go crazy. She shouted at him to come to the synthesis. Khan started arguing with her and said that he was not going to go there for anything. He said he was going to die there. Isel denied this and claimed that they were just sinking. But Khan believed that this was tantamount to death. Isel got tired of arguing and, against his will, pushed him inside. Shay was already inside, waiting for Han. She heard the whole argument and noted that it was noisy. The synthesis of heroes has begun. The guy's body was irradiated with blue light. He really wanted to avoid it. Synthesis, strengthening heroes by combining them. One hero must sacrifice himself to strengthen the other. This means that one of the heroes will be absorbed by the other. The problem was that the main character was Shay, who had 4 stars while he only had 1. An adequate player would never sacrifice Shay for such a character, the guy thought. He closed his eyes and prepared for the fact that he would simply be absorbed into the synthesis. Synthesis is complete. The guy opened his eyes and was surprised that he hadn't disappeared. On the contrary, he felt a surge of strength. He looked at Shay and saw that she was disappearing into the bright light. He couldn't believe it. He asked her why she was disappearing. It was incomprehensible to him, because she had 4 stars. But Shay said with ease and a smile on her face that this was her fate, since he was chosen. Her body gradually disappeared, and before she completely dissolved, she wished the main character good luck with a warm smile on her face. Khan fell into a stupor. He was surprised by what had just happened. He didn't understand what had happened at all. We are being transported to the present. A goblin attacked the man and killed him. Grisha returned to the arms of the Lord. Jen, seeing the goblins attacking those men, shouted for them to fight. Khan ordered her not to be distracted, otherwise they would kill her. And so our main character survived. Synthesis is made by digesting heroes. The one you want to merge is chosen, and you drag. Khan reduced it to the fact that he may have been confused, where the player does not understand how to play at all. In any case, he was glad that the master turned out to be a cretin, but he still considered this game a garbage dump. Thanks to his efforts and experience, Khan learned how to deal with goblins. He killed a couple of goblins and turned to Jen, asking what happened to the rest of the heroes. She replied that one was killed, and what happened to the second, she did not have time to finish, as the Khan interrupted her. He said they would deal with them later. Suddenly, a goblin attacked the guy from behind and cut off his hand with one blow. Han cried out loudly in pain. The main character did not know how he got inside the game. But one thing was clear to him for sure, he was Han So Jin. He was called a 1-star hero. Han forcefully hit the goblin that attacked him and killed him. He remembered how he came to this world. right before he got here. A level 999 monster looked into his eyes and laughed. Han was sure it wasn't a coincidence and he was transported here by this monster. He cut off the goblin's head and thought that the monster that brought him here had messed with the wrong person. He felt power and anger. The fight was over. There were goblin bodies lying around, and Han was sitting next to them. His severed arm was lying nearby. Jenna came up to him and looked at him excitedly. She wanted to ask about his arm, but he assured her that it would heal when they returned. Players almost do not directly control the battles, as the combat AI automatically conducts battles. Despite this, the game has received 1 million downloads. The reason for this could be the fact that players could observe this world like gods. Khan understood this well. Sitting on the ground without an arm and losing a lot of blood, he grinned and looked up. He was sure that the Watcher was having fun there. He was the same player himself. The creation of items, tactics, leveling of heroes and hidden opportunities attracted him. Khan said out loud that the game might seem bad, but asked not to quit it. He turned to Loki, who called the top 5 player choose me, and stated that the observer would see how he would get to the end. Despite his shabby appearance, there was fire in his eyes. The system reported that the floor was passed. Jenna raised her level, and the reward was 2,000 gold, iron X2, copper X1 and leather X1. The game showed the cards of the dead players. Only 2 heroes survived, Islat Khan and Jenna Kure. Khan accepted the situation and stopped complaining. He believed that complaints were only suitable for losers, and he could not afford to give up. He kept running, thinking about the world of the game Choose Me. However, he realized that he was a hero with only 1 star and that there were only 2 types of death on the battlefield and during synthesis. He understood that his chances of survival were extremely small, and that heroes with 1 star could hardly be useful. Khan understood that he needed to improve in order to survive, take revenge and return home. He decided to find out what he needed to do to become stronger. He realized that he had weak characteristics, slow pumping, and that in this case he could be quickly thrown out of the game. The system showed his characteristics. Islat Khan level 544 50th. Class, Beginner, Strength, 15, Intelligence, 15, Health, 15, Dexterity, 15, Skills, no. The main character realized that he needed to do everything possible to survive and return home. He knew that if he couldn't adapt to the rules of the game, he would die. Khan understood that he needed to strengthen not only his body, but also his spirit, otherwise his chances of survival would decrease. He decided to control his emotions, because he understood that otherwise it could lead to his death. He had to run very fast, and it reminded him of serving in the army. The main character Khan was actively engaged in physical exercises, training his body. He was used to being alone, as he grew up without anyone caring about him. He needed to return to this state. When he was doing push-ups, Jenna came up to him and asked what he was doing. Han dryly replied that he was training and asked what she needed. She was offended by his rude tone, and she replied that she was just looking for him. The girl stood silently for a while, gathering her thoughts, and yet decided to start a conversation. She spent the night thinking about what to do next. Jenna took a bow and 1 arrow, and asked Han if there was a way to get out of here. Apparently, Jenna wanted to join Han to increase her chances of survival. She aimed at the scarecrow and went on to say that her father was a hunter and taught her to shoot an arrow. She claimed she wouldn't be a burden. She, like Khan, believed that nothing would change if she just sat and cried. After saying her last words, she fired a bow and hit the scarecrow right in the head. Jenna was sure Han knew how to survive here. Han stopped training and asked if yesterday's battle was her first, to which she replied in the affirmative. He asked how good she was with onions, to which the redhead replied that more or less. He saw her profile. Jenna Kure, level 2, experience, 520th. Class, Beginner, Strength, 11, Intelligence, 10, Health, 11, Agility, 12. Skills, Basics of Archery level 1. He remembered that she had received 4 stats points yesterday. Han understood that although she was weaker than him in this, but she had the skill and easily coped with killing goblins in her first battle. The guy appreciated her and realized that teaming up with her would have its advantages. He noted that she quickly moves away from the death of other people and knows how to set goals. He valued her as a rough diamond. Khan agreed to help her, and Jenna held out her hand to him, remembering her father's words that connections are an important part of life. She was glowing with happiness and realized that her father was right. Khan also extended his hand in return and shook it. Jenna said she was happy to work with him. The system highlighted the inscription that Jenna favored Khan. A relationship bonus was received. It turned out that when creating a group with another hero, a bonus is given. The guy thought to himself that these notifications were starting to annoy him. The main character wandered around the area and called Izzle. She appeared, but was outraged by the call. She exclaimed angrily that she was busy. Khan mockingly replied that he did not know that the busy comes so quickly. The fairy ignored this and said that she would not answer his stupid questions, no matter how much he asked, and that all the answers were in the tower, where you need to climb. But Khan suddenly asked her something completely different. Why is he the only one who sees status windows? Isel was unsettled by this. She began to openly lie that she didn't understand what he was talking about. but Khan perfectly saw her level above her head, and in honor of the proof he named her level 257. Isl was surprised that he could really see the level, not believing how it was possible. She shook it a little out of surprise. Han realized from her reaction that only he could see the system messages addressed to the master. Khan asked the fairy what would happen if the master quit the game, to which she replied that he prayed that this would not happen. Jenna was standing next to Han. The guy remembered about synthesis. Synthesizing him and Shay was a pretty serious mistake. The master has merged a 4-star hero. The chance of getting such a character is 1%. He still couldn't figure out how a player could spend such a successful character on him. Khan, after Isl's words, thought about the game account. The account had a hard link to the phone. It would not have been possible to start it again. He remembered that the last time the master entered the game after a week, he asked Isl about the passage of time here and on Earth, to which the fairy viciously refused to answer. Khan realized that the time was different, and thanked her with a grin for her honesty, thereby making her even more angry. She called him a fucking 1-star jerk. Han realized that Jenna could not harm him, since she was obliged to obey her master or use force only in self-defense. He understood that this was the only way he could learn the rules of this world and survive. Jenna asked Han what they were talking about, to which he replied that they had to walk 100 floors of the tower. He explained that the beings, who are called masters, issue tasks through Isl, and that they are required to complete these tasks in order to advance further. Han is confident that if they reach the top of the tower, they will be able to get out of here. Jenna asked if they would have to fight a lot on their way, and Han replied that that was why he was training to become stronger. Jenna also wondered if they would be alone, and Han explained that the master could summon other heroes so they wouldn't be left alone. Now Khan understands that every decision he makes must be considered and considered, although their lives still remain in the hands of the player. After a whole day of training, the main character learned another interesting feature of this world. All the essentials and food are updated every day. You can also get other things, just think about it, and they will appear by the fireplace or in the closet. But with game items, weapons or money, this will not work. Khan also noticed that the results of the training are also different. Now he knew about mechanics that he didn't even know about when he was playing himself. For example, even among the heroes of the same star class, there are more talented ones. Their distinguishing feature is diligence. Although training does not raise the characteristics or level, they help to acquire and develop new skills. Khan didn't know about it. Now it's hard for him to say that the heroes were controlled by AI. Soon the wizard will start sorting the heroes according to 3 criteria. The first is the power of the spirit. The master does not need heroes who tend to panic on the battlefield. The second is skills. High-ranked heroes are called up already with skills, for example, like Shay. And 1-star ones require hard work to uncover them. And the third is physical training. It is the last point that Khan is engaged in. He works hard to train his body well. On the 3rd day of training, the system reported that the master had entered the game. During all these training sessions, Khan was able to get 2 skills, the basics of fencing and the basics of using a shield. So far, this is the maximum that he could do. Han warned Jenna that the master was already here and she should be ready for action. Jenna was surprised by the arrival of the master, to which Khan replied that there was nothing to be surprised, it had already been 3 days. The system reported that the master had started the summoning, and Han made it clear to Jenna that there could be up to 5 people in the group, so 3 more would most likely arrive. Sometime later, the system reported that the master entered brought 3 more heroes, and 3 new characters immediately appeared. They were puzzled by what was happening and looked around until Jenna warned them to prepare for battle and said that explanations would be later. Now they need to survive. Khan was already heading for the rift. The man who had just been added to the group didn't understand anything and asked Jenna who she was in general. Isl opened a rift, and the system reported the addition of 3 participants to the first group. Jenna and Han were ready to fight, while the others stood aside, not daring to come closer. The game gave the same advice as the last time. Heroes without equipped weapons start a fight with an old iron sword. If you put weapons in the arsenal of heroes, they equip it. The master could choose a weapon for them. Khan realized that there were no weapons for them, since the old ones remained with the dead heroes. Isl hurried the newcomers to get inside, but they climbed to the ferry with questions and complaints. One of the men was extremely aggressive, and Jenna, to calm him down, restrained him and asked him to stop, warning that it was better not to run into him. However, the man reacted angrily and thought she was related to this fairy by asking her about it. Jenna was taken aback by such a statement and began to justify that she herself was also dragged here. The main character told her that she didn't have to bother, as they would soon understand everything themselves. The girl left them alone, and the men began to climb to Isl again. The aggressive man complained that his wife was waiting for him and demanded to show him the way out. The second man began to defend himself that he was just a farmer and had no money at all. All this angered Isel, and she demanded that they get lost. The guy and the girl were standing apart from them. Jenna was still worried about them compared to Khan, who said not to pay attention to them, since it was none of their business. Isel got tired of them and somehow pushed them all away. She told them it was better to just obey her, like those 2 over there. After all, they all gathered and entered the rift. Finally, The fairy waved and wished them to have fun. The system showed that he had gone up to the second floor. The task was to conquer. Goal: destroy the enemies. The heroes found themselves in a glowing circle. It was still the same location as last time, with the difference that there were trees here. While the three newcomers were shocked and lost, the main character and Jenna prepared for battle. Now there were not only goblins in front of them, but also steppenwolves. The monsters were level 4. All three heroes, seeing these monsters, were very scared, thereby lowering their characteristics by 30%. Since the main character could see the system notification, he looked at Jenna and noticed that she also lost 30% of her characteristic due to fear. Khan was surprised that she also went there. He suddenly hit her with his hand, which scared her very much. He mockingly asked how much porridge she had eaten, but the girl yelled at him so that he wouldn't scare her like that anymore. Khan ignored this and said that 2 goblins were on it, and he would deal with the wolves. The system showed that Jenna was no longer afraid. Han calmed down, glad that she was just a little scared. But he didn't expect anything from the newcomers. The attack from the monsters began. The wolf attacked Khan, but he managed to defend himself. He pierced the monster with his sword and realized that one blow was not enough. Besides, his weapons left a lot to be desired. But that was enough for Khan. He stabbed hard with his sword again, piercing the monster. Khan easily killed the wolf, which was amazing. But he couldn't relax, because immediately after that he was attacked by another wolf from the side. Fortunately, he managed to react quickly and protect himself with a shield. Abruptly removing the shield, he struck with his sword with lightning speed, killing the wolf in 2 strikes. Thus, the wolves were defeated. He ran to Jenna to find out what was going on with the goblins. But it turned out that she no longer needed his help, as the goblins were killed by a lot of archery shots. The girl was still standing, holding the bow in her hands and breathing heavily from fear. Khan was surprised by such a picture and commented that they were porcupines. He asked her how many times she fired, but she couldn't answer. Khan asked her to calm down, as they were already dead. The system reported that the floor had been cleared, and Han and Jenna had raised their level. Khan was the most valuable hero. As a reward, they were given 5,000 gold, iron ore X1 and leather X3. They were returned to their previous location, and the game congratulated them on clearing the second floor. In addition, she informed them that they should go up to the 3rd floor. The floor shook under their feet. It scared Jenna, and she asked what was going on. Khan replied that they had captured the 2nd floor and were now going up to the 3rd. The guy understood that the master could continue to climb, and he was a little worried that they were going to sweep the 3rd floor. He looked at those men and knew that at this rate, he and Jen would not last any longer. But then the master left the game, which greatly calmed the Khan. He let out a sigh of relief. Isel, who was flying nearby, was also happy about this. She began to complain that she was very tired. To such a Khan, the announcement on her part began to seem strange. How could she be tired if they did all the work? Han thought to himself that they passed through 1 floor in a day and concluded that if the time here is 3 times faster, then the master will return in 3 days. Khan's characterization showed that he had risen to the 6th level. His intelligence decreased by 1, but his strength increased by 2 points. He noticed that the stats had increased by only 4, but the pumping speed had improved overall. He's getting stronger. He was glad that the master was in no hurry. If they were constantly going straight up, problems would begin. Meanwhile, those 2 scandalous men were interrogating Jenna. They wanted to know why they needed to fight, what kind of monsters they were and where they ended up. The girl was confused because of such a stream of questions and did not know where to start. Khan looked at them disapprovingly and still believed that the 1-star heroes were ordinary people. They have never been to war and have never fought. Jenna tried to explain to them that you need to fight to survive, and that's all that matters right now. But these individuals responded extremely aggressively. One of them started complaining that he had never held a sword in his life and why he was doing it at all. Now Khan understood why they were considered expendable. He remembered the hero who died first. Malmont was a 2-star mercenary. The guy had an idea that maybe heroes with a lot of stars were called up earlier. High-ranked heroes do not hesitate in battle, unlike 1-star ones who panic. And the 3-star ones seemed to be ready for everything. Han remembered Shay. He speculated that maybe they already knew they were going to be called up, or they had a reason to fight monsters. He was sure Shay knew something. Jenna approached Han, asking where such newcomers come from. She asked him if he wanted to try to explain everything to them, to which Khan replied that he did not want to waste time on this. Jenna explained that if they understood everything, they could become their allies. It was better than nothing for her, but Khan was convinced that they would soon die. I suggest we see what happens next. He understood that even if they did not die in battle, then they would simply be synthesized. Khan told them that only the 2 of them would fight. Therefore, they may not bother. The same married man approached Khan and said he had questions. But the guy turned away, not going to waste time on him. This attitude angered the man, and he grabbed the main character by the collar. Khan did not slow down and hit him in the jaw. The man fell to the ground, and Han looked up at him, reminding him that they were hiding behind their backs while he and Jenna were fighting. The man fearfully stretched out his hands forward, defending himself and trying to explain himself. Khan left him alone and left. 2 other participants immediately ran up to the man. Jin followed Han. He asked her if she was happy now, to which she only grinned. The next day they continued training. After physical training, weapons training began. Although it's hard to call it any special training, he just waves a wooden sword and Jenna shoots an arrow. Thanks to the training, Khan was able to raise his 2 skills to the 2nd level. That trio didn't even show up. It seemed that they were going to look for a way out of here, as if there was one here. Jenna was shooting arrows at Khan, while he was fighting off arrows with a shield and a sword. One arrow hit him in the leg, and Khan cursed in pain. Jenna, worried, came up to him and asked if he was all right. Khan, pulling the arrow out of her leg, assured her that there was no need to worry. He said that this place was different from the real world and his leg was instantly regenerated. The systems report that Khan has acquired the pain threshold skill. Getting to his feet, he told Jenna to continue. Pain wasn't a problem for him. That meant he was still alive. Khan kept asking Jenna to shoot. She in turn complied with his request, even though she thought it was time to stop. The system informs that Khan's skills fundamentals of fencing and fundamentals of shield mastery are combined into a new skill. Khan received the skill shield and sword technique, basics, level 1. The day came when the master entered the game. Izel, in her repertoire, shouted at them that the master had appeared and demanded that they quickly gather in the square. She also kept threatening them that there would be trouble. Jenna was determined. She said that she feels great after training and that her hands are already itching. Khan appreciated her actions and said that she gets used to this world faster than he does. Jenna wanted to blow off steam. And now they finally saw those 3 heroes. As always, those 2 noisy men approached the ferry and started complaining again. The 3rd young guy decided to stand silently behind them. That farmer kept asking to be brought back home. He was whining that he was tired of eating 1 potato. And the 2nd married man said he didn't want to fight. They both drove the ferry, and like last time, she threw them away with 1 blow. She screamed that they had already got her. I warn you that he will beat them up, that they will apologize later. The hype started, and the ferry started beating them all up. Cries for help were heard. Isel ordered them inside. Now all 3 beaten newcomers humbly agreed with her. They went up to the 3rd floor. 4 larger goblins now appeared in front of them. This time they were in armor and with more serious weapons, such as a crossbow and an axe. Khan noted that their strength and skills have improved. This time, Jenna was calm and determined. The guy ordered to act the same way as in training. They rushed into battle, as the main character thought. The 3rd floor turned out to be easy for them. The system reports that the floor is cleared. Jenna has raised her level. The most valuable hero is Jenna. The reward was 7,000 gold, iron ore X2, leather X1. Jenna noticed that they did a good job, and it even seemed a little boring to Khan. The girl noticed that those 3 were just standing again, but Khan didn't care about that. He believed that it was better to let them get all the experience, since it is not credited without participating in the battle. The system gave advice to the master. Send disobedient heroes to repeat the passage of dungeons to force them to fight. The master was given a choice whether he wanted to repeat the passage, to which he agreed. Han warned Jenna about this. She realized that it was too early to relax. They returned to the 1st floor again. The girl said that it's not so bad, because these are the same monsters as before. This floor was easily cleared. The most valuable hero was Jenna. The reward was 1,000 gold. Suddenly the master wanted to pass the passage again. Khan was alarmed by this, and he realized that the master was not going to give them a break. They repeatedly passed the 1st floor. This time, Khan was with the valuable hero. The reward was still 1,000 gold. The master sent them to the 3rd floor again. They had to go through it all again. The main characters are already exhausted. Jenna complained that she was tired and asked if the master would send them there again. Khan couldn't have known that. Fortunately, this was their last walkthrough for today. Jenna, coming out of the rift, complained to Khan that she was too tired to guard them. She asked how long it would last. Han assured her that there was no need to worry since this was the last time. The girl did not understand what he was talking about, since the master simply does not pay attention to them. Han didn't want her not to think he wanted to mess with insects. They came to the site of the synthesis. The system reported that the synthesis process was starting. The 3 heroes didn't understand what was going on. The system announced that you need to drag the heroes that the master wants to sacrifice. Khan felt that these assholes never took their chance. We are given a map of the game's location. Their location was divided into 6 compartments and erected by huge walls in a huge circle. These compartments included a training arena, a living area, a workshop, a square, a summoning hall, and an air landing. The synthesis hall was in the workshop, and there was an arsenal nearby. The rift of space and time opened up on the square. In the synthesis hall, Han was thinking that they had a chance. Maybe not even one. Although most of the little things are not shown on the screen, the master still has a general understanding of what is happening in the game. He knows about the achievements of the heroes, sees who is fighting and who is just standing aside. Han and Jenna have been added to favorites. Isel ordered Jenna and Elsens to go to the synthesis hall right now. They were both wary, but Khan calmed the girl down and said that she would be fine. Elsens approached the guy and asked what would happen if they went there. Khan replied that he would get what he deserved. The man exclaimed that it was unfair, since he was dragged here against his will. But Khan dryly replied that no one was interested in his opinion. Isel, who was flying nearby, agreed with his words for the first time. Han continued talking. He asked the man if he really thought he could hide behind the backs of others. He believed that even though he did not know how to fight, it was enough to at least try. The man had nothing to say. Isel, adding oil to the fire, said that everyone was already tired of messing with them, pushing him to get inside. The man and Jenna entered the hall, and the synthesis launch began. Elnos beat the doors to the last, demanding to let him out. Suddenly, his body lit up with a blue light. He cried out in fright. The synthesis was completed. The girl raised her level and got the skill Excellent Eye. Leaving the hall, she was surprised. She asked what happened and added that she saw the man just disappear. Khan replied that they get rid of useless heroes here. It was his turn. He mockingly asked which of the newcomers would get this honor. The two heroes were scared after such an announcement. The fairy pointed her finger at the heroes, calling them inside. It was Han and Toby. He is a married man. He fell into a stupor of fear. Being already inside the hall, he also tried to get out of there, hoping that he would be sent home. Khan responded by saying that he could believe in anything. A loud shout followed. The synthesis was completed. Toby disappeared into the bright light. Khan raised his level and got the skill Composure. The main character left the hall. As a result, there was only one young guy left from the newcomers, who made the least noise. Passing by him, Khan said that he was lucky. The guy shivered at his tone. The red-haired girl followed him and asked if the master decided that the hero was no longer needed, then he would just get rid of him. Khan said that there was nothing to be surprised about. He mentioned that she herself had recently complained about them. Jenna was afraid that she might become unnecessary. The guy replied that there was nothing to be done about it, since with each floor the monsters and heroes that the master calls upon will become stronger. He explained that they would either die in battle or during fusion. The girl drooped and asked if he knew this from the very beginning. He decided not to answer that question. Instead, he asked her to listen to what her father said, that sticking with the right people was the best solution. The next day in the training arena, the girl turned to the Khan with a bow. She said she was hoping for him now. The young man did not understand what this was about. She straightened up and mentioned that he himself had said yesterday that it was necessary to stick to him, and this would save her life. And then she decided to make it clear that now she would count on him. He was surprised by such a statement on her part, but still agreed, demanding that she do what they say. Then she won't have to worry about her life. And then the newcomer turned to them. He asked to be allowed to join them. He apologized for behaving so stupidly and adding so much trouble to them. He understood that he acted like a coward and did nothing, leaving the whole battle to them. Now he was going to change. Khan was suspicious of him and asked why he should trust him. The guy bowed and said he could kneel if they asked. Jenna supported him, saying that he seemed to realize his situation. Khan picked up a spear and asked the novice if he had ever fought monsters. He shared that in the beginning he didn't know how to do anything at all. He threw the spear into the guy's hands. The newcomer was surprised by his words and said that he fights so well. Khan replied that he was just trying to survive. He ordered the guy to take up arms. Han wasn't sure, but he had heard that the spear was the easiest weapon to master for a beginner. The main character asked if he was aware that he would work with this on the strategy of melee, medium and ranged combat. But Jenna answered instead. She said that the near one is a sword, the middle one is a spear, the far one is a bow. She was glad that now all their positions would be closed. Khan agreed with her that it would be the best combination for 3 people without training. He picked up a wooden sword and pointed it at the novice, asking what he was waiting for, thereby calling him to fight. The young man was surprised that they immediately started fighting. He expected to be taught something first, but the Khan could not do this, since he himself had never held a spear in his hands. He rushed into the attack first, saying that he was learning on the go, demanding that he learn. He delivered lightning strikes that the novice was able to repel. Khan said that he had at least a sparring partner, mentioning that he only had a scarecrow. The guy after these words decided to strike too. He closed his eyes and swung his spear. But before he could strike, the Khan ordered him not to close his eyes in the middle of the fight and kicked him in the stomach. The guy bent over in pain and vomited. Khan said that he actually submitted and was disappointed that this was all he was capable of. He added that the monster would have killed him long ago. Jenna asked if he had overdone it since it was his first time. But Khan said he didn't care. He wasn't going to waste time on someone who wasn't capable of anything. Khan asked the newcomer if he had a family. The guy answered in the affirmative, adding that he has a younger sister. Khan noticed that he had at least someone unlike him. He held the tip of the wooden sword to his throat and told him to imagine what would happen to her if he did not return. He suggested that if he was going to die, it would be better not to go to the monsters, as they would tear apart and the synthesis would not be so painful. He advised him not to start something he couldn't handle. These words ignited a fire in his heart, and he clenched his teeth from the surging emotions. Khan, looking at him, grinned, saying that he already likes this look. The newcomer's eyes lit up with fire. The next day, the system reported that the master decided to create an additional building, a forge, and then the forge was built. 500 crystals were spent on the creation. This building pleased the main character. Now he had a blacksmith shop available. He called Isel to him if she could hear him. She appeared, but grumbled who he was to summon her. He clearly replied that she should come up with something new, since such answers are already in cookies. She got very angry, wanting to hit him. But she couldn't do that, so she just waved her fists in front of him, barely touching him. While she was angry, Khan asked if she was forming messages with advice. He noticed that they looked like messages from a forum, and asked if she could go online. She replied that she could and read a little in her spare time. He realized that a forum with strategies was available to her. First the training center, then 10 weapons, then the forge. Isel interrupted him, asking how he knew about it. But he replied that he didn't know one of the most popular posts on the forum that Loki had written. The fairy was surprised that he knew about it. He confirmed that he was also a player. Isel scoffed and said that he is now a low-ranked character on the lower levels, while Mr. Loki is the master of all masters, the god of this game. She believed that he would definitely be in the first place if he received at least one hero of 7 stars. Khan was interested in what she found in him, and the fairy replied that she could make the impossible possible. The guy was mockingly surprised, and Isel doubted whether he was playing for sure since it was a base. She started fluttering, waving her arms and praising Mr. Loki. But the guy interrupted her, asking for forgiveness. Isel stared at him in bewilderment, not understanding why. Han's eyes seemed to light up. The main character confessed that he is Loki. Improvement of buildings. The construction of level 1 contains the main necessary functions. Building level 2 contains additional features and the ability to create additional buildings. The level 3 building opens after level 2 and provides advanced building features. Isel, incredulous, asked what he meant. She was about to start refuting his words when he interrupted her by dictating his account number 46,631,913. He also added that to prevent hacking, the account number of the game is known only to the owner and manager of the server. He pointed it out to her to check it and mockingly asked if she should also tell the mail. Isel began to search for something in the data with a serious look. She was still in doubt, and she still found all the evidence and fell into a dumb shock with surprise. Isel stood in silence for some time, and then asked him to give it. Khan didn't understand what to give her, and suddenly, unexpectedly, she pulled out a notebook with a pen and handed it to the guy. She asked for an autograph. Isel was very excited and happy. She happily said that now she will be the coolest in the fan club. Picking up a notebook, Khan asked what other fan club he was talking about. The fairy enthusiastically replied that this was Loki's fan club, the Masters of All Masters. She boasted that she would be a top-level participant if she got an autograph. Khan was not interested in this, so he simply replied that he had never heard of such a thing. Suddenly, Isel realized everything. She was horrified that she had said so many things to the real Loki. But the guy said not to bother, because now he's a 1-star hero, and who cares about that? He signed the autograph and returned the notebook to Isel. The fairy anxiously asked what would happen to Nilfgaard without him. He had no idea. Nilfgaard is his character's settlement. 13 floors of a huge fortress. Capacity of 20,000 people. Most of the buildings there have been improved to 18-22 levels. Huge pumping. But it didn't matter now. The master of the settlement is Khan, and he is here now. Isel became even more alarmed and asked what would happen to the residents now. He said he could dissolve the settlement if he was worried about them. But she drooped, saying that she could not do it. Han knew this because she was just a mid-level moderator who deals with all sorts of little things. Khan asked her about the master of this account and it. He asked if he was also human, and concluded that the heroes who were being called here were not artificial intelligence at all. The fairy replied that it was so. Heroes are called from different worlds, but they are all real people. Han was thinking about the fact that Enit doesn't know about it. He is a simple player who likes to play. For him, heroes are an ordinary worker who can be exposed to any dangers. Khan asked if he would be able to return home if he climbed to the top. The fairy sadly replied that she did not know. He wanted to know, but since she didn't know, he decided to ask another question. He asked who moved him here, but Isel couldn't answer that. The guy sighed in resignation, and the fairy asked for forgiveness for this. But he did not take offense at her, saying that he would find out himself while he was climbing. He decided to find out what access and authority she had. Isel shared that she can give master tips, open and close buildings, help in choosing something. Khan asked if the other master's settlement looked the same. She replied that there was some difference, but in general, yes. The main character thought about it and realized that there are a million of the same worlds. The Mobius Summon, a system for creating an infinite number of heroes with thousands of different skill combinations, turned out to be a lie. Quantum artificial intelligence was just a hoax. The heroes turned out to be a non-advanced mouse, but real people. The bagel system, endless variations of content. In fact, a million different worlds. The hero could not even think that what is happening in the game is real. He realized that his rash actions in the past had doomed many people to death. Khan called Isel, and she answered him. He told her to obey him if she wanted to climb up. Usually always angry, Isel was happy with such an offer this time. In the training arena, The heroes were training, and Khan was making his conclusions. He considered Jenna a genius. She grew at a speed not available to other heroes of her level. This time she was training with a different weapon. Khan appreciated that for the first time holding a dagger, she got used to it so quickly. Well, he couldn't say that about Eren. He believed that with such successes, he would die on the battlefield. The guy in training was amazed by Jenna. She approached Khan with the words that she was giving in, but it didn't really help him. The Khan answered her so that she would not be arrogant and told her to follow him. The girl was surprised and asked what happened. She asked if he wouldn't train his #1 assistant. Then an angry fairy flew up to Jenna, asking how she dared to address him like that. Isel began to think that she was the #1. The girl stared at her in surprise, and a rival spark arose between them. Jenna asked someone to calm her down. Isel, rudely addressing the red-haired girl, almost blurted out who Khan was. She was stopped by Khan, who managed to close her mouth. He subtly hinted that it was time for her to leave. Before she started working, she hissed angrily that she was Loki's first assistant anyway. Then she stopped and corrected the name to Khan. The main character was already regretting that he had told her about himself. Jenna asked who Loki they were referring to which the guy replied that he should not take her seriously, since she was just stupid. They headed towards the warehouse. He remembered that Isel could open buildings and asked her to open a warehouse. The game system reports that Khan found in the warehouse iron X6, leather X3 and boards X4. Taking the necessary items, they headed towards the forge. He also told Isel to open it. She followed his orders flawlessly. Jenna asked what he was up to. Khan replied that he was not going to wield such a mediocre sword forever. From the conversation with Isel, he realized that he was half a hero, half a master. He was wondering if he would be able to enter the zones accessible only to masters. The fairy flew near the guy and addressed him as Loki. She asked what he was going to create, Leviathan or Brunek. He asked in response if it was possible in such a place. They were standing near the stove. The system reported that without improving the structure, without a master forge and without a drawing, a fine would be imposed. She also said that the chance of success is terrible. When asked if he wanted to start the creation, he answered in the affirmative. Isel assumed that he wanted to create an item. Khan replied that it looked like that. The system, after agreeing, asked him to choose the difficulty level, warning that the higher the level, the higher the possible reward. Khan chose the extreme level. Isel was horrified by his choice and reminded him that there are triple penalties. But Han was calm and told her to just watch. It was a mini-game for the masters. It is usually missed, although the awards are substantial. A sword in the form of a hologram appeared in front of him and sorted out into mini cubes. He had 3 minutes to assemble it. Isel exclaimed that it was impossible to understand even the form here. Khan grabbed one cube and said it wasn't a problem for him. The system told him to start. Isel's eyes lit up from the legendary movement of the 1,000 hands technique. Everything was happening so fast that it was impossible to keep track of his hands, which made it seem that he had thousands of hands. Khan managed to assemble the sword in shape. The game congratulated him on his absolute success, and Isel was all fired up by the sight of the sword. It was a forged C-grade longsword, durable, light and sharp. Mediocre materials were skillfully combined. Khan looked at the created sword with pride. Khan continued to create new things. He had already managed to create a balanced short bow, a sharp long spear and a strong iron shield. He realized that it turns out to create only tools with a rank of C, since the quality of materials affects the quality of the product. Isel asked if he was going to continue creating weapons. He replied that it might attract attention, and he didn't need the master to start guessing. The day came when they advanced to the 4th floor. They were on the battlefield. Jenna was testing her updated bow. She got right into the monster and noticed that the tension became stronger. She shared the idea that they would definitely want to steal such a bow. Khan advised using the personal weapon function to prevent this from happening. It was just the 3 of them on the 4th floor. Jenna thought that the master was really strange, sending them here in such numbers. This time there is a new kind of monsters, harpies half women, half birds. Khan, as always, took over the goblins and left the harpies to Jenna. He told Eren to protect the girl. The attack from the monsters began. Eren started actively swinging his spear, but due to fear lowered his stats by 30%. Han, defending himself from the goblin, told Eren that he was swinging too chaotically. But the guy didn't even seem to listen to him, continuing to desperately try to defend himself. Jenna ran up to him and slapped him in the face, shouting at him to get ready. The blow was so strong that blood flowed from his nose, but it brought him to his senses. Jenna yelled at him, explaining that their lives were at stake. Khan joined in her words and shouted for Eren to pull himself together. Finally, Eren was able to think straight and also rush into battle, so they were able to clear the floor. The system reported that Eren had raised his level, and the most valuable hero was Khan. The reward was 10,000 gold, iron ore X2, leather X3. After the end of the fight, Eren shared his feelings. He said he was just getting in the way again. He asked what would happen to him now, but the system reports that Eren has been added to favorites. Khan told him that he would live for now, since the master had added him to the favorites. Jenna and Eren stared at him in surprise. The guy did not immediately believe this ad. Aaron shouted joyfully that he could do it. Jenna happily told Khan that first his first subordinate was successful, and now the second one is there too. Khan denied that they were subordinates. Leaving for the arsenal, he thought about these words. He thought it was more likely that his first subordinate would be Surus from Nilfair. He remembered his heroes from his settlement. A group of 5 people, 6-star heroes of the 99th level, each with their own divine and other powerful skills. He hoped that he would be able to meet them again. It was an AFC game, so Surus, the Vice Master, is quite capable of managing. Moreover, Yornit ensures her. They are both so smart that sometimes he wondered if it was really artificial intelligence. But now he realized that they were real people. Meanwhile in Nilfair, a man in a white raincoat approached Surus, asking if she was really going to leave. She told Yornit that every minute was important right now. The man replied that he could not help, so leave the following to her. She wished him good luck and set off. Yornit hoped she was 1,000 masters. We are transported to the Khan's location. The system reports that the residential area has been upgraded to the 2nd level and the limit of heroes in the settlement has been increased. The construction of new buildings has begun. A food point has appeared in the residential area. Now the heroes will be able to receive dishes of higher quality. The training area was also upgraded to the 2nd level, which increased the effectiveness of training. 3 buildings of the arsenal, a blacksmith shop, a carpenter's workshop, and a metalworking workshop were combined into a single building, an equipment workshop. The system congratulates you on increasing the area to the 2nd level. Jenna was very surprised by the new buildings. She asked what happened. Aaron was equally surprised. He asked if this master was a great magician, not believing it's even possible. Hannah wasn't surprised. He told them that he had invested the money, assuming that the master liked the game. Naturally, the lively behavior of the characters and the realism of the battle make this game interesting. He thought it was all about the feeling that the characters were real people, not cards. Well, actually, they turned out to be real people. He told the guys that the higher they climb, the better the conditions will be. Han decided to share his thoughts with Izel. He assumed that the master plays at a strictly defined time. Apparently, this is an office worker. He also came to the conclusion that he not only studies the game, but also invests money here. The fairy rejoices at this outcome of events, considered it lucky that this is not some poor student, since he has enough money to buy a set for 65,000 won. In her hand she held 2 bags, one with gold coins, the other with crystals. Unlike other Choose Me games, it does not reward the player with crystals at all for winning a task, and other ways to earn them inside the game can be counted on the fingers. Khan replied to the fairy that it was a great luck to meet a player who was willing to invest real money. Suddenly, the system reports that the master has decided to summon 10 new heroes. The guys gathered at the place of the draft. Aaron did not expect that new heroes would be called. Khan replied that the renovation was over and it was time to celebrate the housewarming. There are 2 ways of summoning. The first call for in-game gold, and the second is an advanced call for crystals. Naturally, the second method is much more effective. After all, it is necessary to somehow force players to invest real money. A lot of people appeared on the spot. Immediately, questions began from the newcomers about where they are. People did not understand what had happened, as some of them were at home just a second ago. One man suggested that it was all a dream. Noticing the main character, he approached him, asking who he was. Khan pointed his sword at this man, thereby scaring him. He ordered them to be silent and said that no one would explain anything now. He explained that they needed to survive, and only to the survivors they would explain everything. And then the fairy appeared with her usual tone. She asked the crowd if there were any carpenters among them, and ordered them to go in the direction she was pointing. She also started looking for blacksmiths, metalworkers, or cooks. The crowd started demanding to explain to them what was going on. One of the guys called Izel a little bullshit. The fairy, shouting at them, ordered them to shut up. Jenna asked Han what she was doing. He replied that he distributes the roles in this way. New vacancies have appeared in their town. Khan also added that if the people who died earlier had been called up now, their fate would have been different. This settlement is starting to change. The game created a new group consisting of Jid, Hansen, John, and Teddy, all of whom were 1-star heroes. Their first battle was about to take place, and they were already preparing to fight with swords in their hands, although most of them were scared. At this time, Khan told them to invest to the fullest, because they have few stars. He was very strict with the newcomers, threatening that useless people would not even get raw potatoes. He warned them that the master would decide which of them would be more useful. 1-star heroes will go to the dungeon, and Izel has already opened the rift and told the newcomers to go there faster. The only information Han gave them before he left was that they would die if they couldn't adapt. He also added that most likely it will be the first floor. The rift closed, and it didn't take long before the system reported that the hero John had been killed. Han was even a little surprised that it happened so quickly. Jenna was excited and asked him if it would be better to tell more details. But the guy replied that it was pointless to waste time on those who could not survive even on the first floor. And then the system again notified that another hero had died. As a result, only 2 heroes survived this battle, and 2 died. Isel called 4 new people to pass the floor. They were Dick, Deckard, Sigler, and Chloe. They were all excited after they found out they were going to fight monsters. The newcomers resisted going there, but then Aaron stepped in. He approached Isel with a request to add him to them. The fairy told him not to go where he was not asked. Jenna was pleasantly surprised by such an act. She asked Khan if he had always been like this. The guy sighed languidly and asked Isel to let him go with them, arguing that his skills were not far away from the newcomers, believing that this would help him. Isel gave the master the choice of whether to join Aaron to the group or not. Sometimes heroes can rush into battle themselves. Their performance in such situations will be increased. Khan turned to Aaron, saying he was glad he wanted to help, but he ordered him not to interfere with the newcomers to gain experience. Aaron replied that he understood him and entered the portal with the others. While the battle was going on, Jenna complained to Khan that she wanted to go home and eat properly, since they were only fed potatoes all this time. The guy thought to himself that she had completely lost her fear. He started talking about how bright the sky was, as if someone was watching them, just like God, who sees and hears everything. Thus, he hinted to Jenna that perhaps her indignation was heard by the master. She shuddered with fear when she realized this. Han grinned at her and told her not to worry too much, since it wasn't enough that he cared about each of their words. Han knew that the master was not listening to their conversation, and everything that happens here is heavily filtered and sent in short messages. For example, that Jenna is unhappy with the food. After some time, the floor was cleared. No one died this time, and Han asked Aaron how many goblins he had killed. The guy replied that only one. Khan was glad that they understood each other. It's time for them to come back. They were glad that they would finally eat something new. When they entered the dining room, they were surprised by the update. Since it looked much better than before, they assumed that if there was a dining room now, would the food become more diverse. Khan replied to them that if the master sees the benefit of their efforts, then perhaps yes. Jenna jumped for joy and shouted that she wanted the best lamb steak. Aaron was also inspired and said that he would be happy with a simple turkey. The main character was puzzled by their behavior and asked if they listened to him at all. A pile of boiled potatoes was laid out on the table. The mood of the main characters instantly dropped. The man who cooked the dishes began to justify that there were a lot of spices in the kitchen, but there were only potatoes from the ingredients. Han glared at him. He remembered that this man claimed that he could cook. The main character checked the characteristics of the man and realized that he was lying, since he didn't even have cooking skills. The lie made him very angry, but he decided to find a new cook before doing anything. Khan turned to a girl named Chloe and appointed her a new chef. A man named Dolph began to object, asking not to rush to Khan's conclusions. She said she would try to cook something else. Khan told him that he was adapting quickly, but warned him that it was better not to lie to him as he would be quickly discovered. He felt sorry for the man, saying that he would close his eyes to it only this time. Dolph shuddered at Han's words. After some time, dinner was finally ready. Although there were only potato dishes on the table, but they were diverse. There were more than 3 kinds of dishes, and it all looked delicious. Jenna exclaimed that the food was delicious and expressed her surprise at such a variety of potato dishes. Chloe confusedly replied that it was thanks to the spices that were in the kitchen. Everyone sat down at the table, and the Khan ordered them to eat and listen to him because he was not going to repeat. He also told it to inform the newcomers, who will not hear because their lives depend on it. It was already night, and Khan told the recruits everything. They were shocked by what they heard and could not believe that they would have to fight. Jenna began to calm them down, saying that she had never fought before getting here, and assuring them that they would cope. The man sitting opposite the main character asked what they should do. His name was Enoch, and he was a carpenter. Khan told him that he and Chloe could help them in another way. Dolph tried to avoid a fight, saying that he could also be a carpenter. Khan warned him with a grin that if he lied again, he would be the first candidate for synthesis, because he would be perfect for this. Dolph paused. Khan explained that professions in the settlement are much safer, but this does not mean that it is worth relaxing. The number of seats was limited, and if a character with better skills than them appears, then the hero can be removed from office and sent into battle. From the next day, the quiet life ended. In the training arena, Han was surprised that only 3 guys came: Hyde, Hansen, and Dika, about 20 years old. Jenna replied that the others were probably scared and were looking for a place to hide. Khan said he was already tired of sparring with Aaron and wanted to try something new. The 3 of them attacked the Khan, but even so they were defeated. Khan noticed that Aaron had a bad influence on them because they started calling him Henim. The difference in characteristics between them was too big, about 7-8 points, which was about like the gap between a child and an adult. On Earth, such a sharp increase in strength would be simply impossible. At this time, Jenna raised her skill basics of archery to the 5th level, and possession of a dagger to the 2nd. Aaron's spear-wielding skill was also at the 2nd level, but he did not progress further, although he trained the most. 3 newcomers have mastered the skill swordsmanship to the 1st level. Their development strongly coincided, most likely due to the same age. The 3 of them were sitting on the ground, beaten and exhausted. One of the guys noticed that Henim was very strong, to which Han replied that it was natural because his level was higher. However, the guys did not understand what level he was talking about. Khan explained that they would soon understand everything. Despite their weakness, Han believed that the 3 newcomers were better than those who were hiding at home. Soon the master summoned 10 more heroes. And this time Eren and the others coped with everything without the main character. Only one person died during the selection. Jenna noticed that their group was getting bigger. Khan explained that this would continue. The girl asked him why the master did not take them to the 5th floor, since a lot of time had passed since the last sweep. Han knew why the master didn't do this, since the 5th floor would have a sharp jump in difficulty. He replied that the master had not yet decided who to add to the group. Every 5 floors, the difficulty increases dramatically, something like a boss level. In such places, even the main character could not be sure that he would survive. Khan knew that despite the selection, training, and so on, many of the heroes would die. Jenna didn't need to know how much the difficulty would increase. Fighting heroes: Jenna Korea, Han Islat, Eren Delcat, Hyde, Hansen and Dika. Support heroes: Enoch and Chloe.